To graph a polynomial function, we'll start by determining the end behavior of the graph. We'll find the zeros and their multiplicity and determine whether the graph touches or crosses the x-axis there. We'll look at both the x and the y-intercepts, and we'll come up with a basic graph of the function that will enable us to answer additional questions. So here we have the graph of g, and it's written in its factored form. So we'll start by looking at the power function that g will look like at infinitely large values of x. And that power function is going to be y is equal to the leading term of the polynomial once it's multiplied out. We've seen before that we don't have to actually multiply the whole thing out to determine what the leading term is. We can just look at the degree of the polynomial, and the degree is determined by the powers on the factors that contain the x, and add those powers together. This is a second degree polynomial. When we multiply that by the x squared term, it kicks us up to a fourth degree, and then distributing in a linear factor will kick it up to a degree 5. And since there are no constant multiples on the front here, this is going to multiply out to have a leading term that is x to the 5th power, and then it would be followed by a lot of other terms that we're not concerning ourselves with right now. That leading term is going to be the power function that our graph looks like at infinitely large values of x, and that will be the answer to part A. This power function x to the 5th is a vertical snake that's kind of steep and a little boxy around the origin. So the end behavior of our graph g is going to look similar to the end behavior of x to the 5th in that it's going to end up in the first quadrant and down in the third quadrant. Now recall that in order to find the zeros of a polynomial, we're going to plug in y is equal to 0 and solve for x, which is the same thing that we would do to find the x-intercepts of a polynomial. So let's plug in y is equal to 0 and figure out who are the x values that solve this equation. Let's bring this equation down here so we have a little bit more space. Let's walk through these steps a little bit more explicitly this time. We set each factor equal to 0 and then solve each of them individually for x. Well, if we take the square root of both sides, this one is just going to give us 0. And let's skip over here to subtracting 4 from both sides to get x is equal to -4. So we have two of the zeros already. X is equal to 0 and x is equal to -4. But what about this equation? When we subtract 1 from both sides to solve for x, we get that x squared is equal to -1. And when we take the square root of both sides, we get plus or minus on the constant side, which is actually going to be plus or minus I. In this third row, I'm going to go ahead and write both of those zeros. It is possible to have imaginary zeros. However, when we have an imaginary zeros, we will not get an x-intercept there. There's no point in talking about the multiplicity or whether the graph touches or crosses the x-axis. We only get x-intercepts at zeros that are real. So we will get an x-intercept 0, 0 here and an x-intercept 4, 0 here. To determine the multiplicity of x is equal to 0, we look at the factor that generated it, which was x squared. The power on that factor is 2, so the multiplicity of that 0 is 2. To look at the multiplicity of x is equal to -4, we consider the factor that generated that 0. The power on that factor is 1, and therefore the multiplicity of that 0 is 1. Because the multiplicity of this 0 is even, our graph is going to touch the x-axis and turn around there. Because the multiplicity of this 0 is odd, our graph is going to cross the x-axis at this x-intercept. In order to determine the y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. Plugging in 0 for x zeroes out that first factor, and 0 multiplied by anything is going to have an output that's 0. So our y-intercept is the ordered pair 0, 0. And now we're ready to make a rough sketch of our graph. We'll start with our x-intercept and y-intercept actually at the ordered pair 0, 0. And the only other x-intercept that we have is -4, 0. Remember that in order to be a graphable point on the Cartesian plane, both the x value and the y value have to be real. We did get some imaginary zeros, but we do not get x-intercepts at the imaginary zeros. Let's recall that the end behavior was up to the right and down to the left, so we'll start our graph down here in the third quadrant and come up to the x-intercept -4. The multiplicity of this 0 is odd, so we'll pass through the x-axis at this x-intercept. Now, when we get over to our calculator, we're going to see that this graph actually does go up quite a ways before coming back down to our 0, 0 x-intercept, and 0, 0 had an even multiplicity, which means that we will bounce off the x-axis here and not cross, and then we'll finish up somewhere in the first quadrant. Again, noticing that our in behavior was down to the left and up to the right. Now we'll use our calculator to find this maximum value. We've already got the minimum value, but we need the max. So let's pull up our calculator here and go to y equals. We'll input our equation x squared times x squared plus 1 times x plus 4. And we can see here on our graph that we're going to need to adjust our window settings to see this maximum value. So we'll come over to the window and we'll increase our y maximum to being the same as what we see on our sketch, 100. Let's also change the y scale to being something bigger, like maybe 20. So our graph is looking similar to what we see on the calculator, but we do need to use our calculator to find this maximum value. So we'll go second calculate, and we'll select option number 4, which is maximum. The calculator requires us to give it a left boundary, so we're going to come to the left of the maximum that we're looking for, hit enter, go to the right of the maximum that we're looking for, hit enter again, and this time get as close to the maximum as we can with our cursor to give a guess by hitting enter again. So now it says that our maximum value is negative 3.17, we'll round to 2 decimals, with a y value of 92.15. So we'll label that point on our graph and then use that to answer these remaining questions. We found the ordered pair at which the maximum occurs, but when we're asked to find the maximum and minimum values, the question here is going to be answered with the y coordinate of the ordered pair. So the relative maximum value for this polynomial function is 92.15, and the relative minimum for this polynomial function is 0, which is the y coordinate of this ordered pair. Now we're asked to determine where the graph is increasing. Remember, a where question is answered with an x value, or in this case, an x interval. The function is increasing in this region and in this region, and the x value where the function starts to increase is negative infinity. So we begin increasing at negative infinity, and we increase all the way up to the x coordinate, negative 3.17. And we use brackets for the increasing and decreasing intervals. Then we begin to increase again at 0, again with the bracket, and going off to positive infinity, and the infinities are always closed with parentheses. In the last question here, we're asked where the graph is decreasing, so we're going to answer this where question with an x interval. The graph is decreasing in this region, which starts at negative 3.17, and it decreases throughout the interval that ends at x is equal to 0. So we'll say we're decreasing from negative 3.17 all the way to 0, close with a bracket.